Well, this is what we're going for today. Whew, God help us. Kind of hard to believe that is 95% of the pattern right there, despite there being no colors. Hand poured, regurgitated shad. All right, everybody, welcome back to the World's Worst Fishing. I'm your host, Chris Jones. Thanks for being here today to watch us play around with glitter and colors in our garage. So a couple of months ago, maybe early beginning of the summer, I did this pattern right here, the regurgitated shad. And it got a lot of attention. And a lot of people wanted to buy them, and I only had one set, so that was quite a fun dilemma. However, recently I've had a few people ask me, you know, hey, can you do another like super in-depth techie, you know, complicated hand pour video? And a couple people have asked me about foiling, and this pattern requires foiling. Okay, so foiling is when you take these foils. I'm not sure if that's focused or not. Let's try again. So when you take foils and you sort of hand inlay them into a pattern. It's really fun, it's really easy, and we're going to show you that today because this pattern requires that, and we get to have some fun with a dead-on plastics morph color that you may have forgotten about. All this recent hype around dopamine, there's another one being slept on, so we're going to show you that too. Alright, so I'm going to quickly walk us through the game plan because we got to get moving. There's a lot going on there. Okay, Angling AI G6 mold, okay? It's got all the room to play, and I usually choose this size because I have the best selection of eyeballs in 8mm, okay? We need, first, a clear layer of capsule plastic, okay? So we're going to show you capsuling real quick, all right? We're going to capsule one layer, and then we have to add some detail, okay? We have to splotch in some black mica powder, some white mica powder, and our foils are all gonna stick to the inside of this capsule, okay? And that is essentially the pattern. And then, and then below that, beneath that, we're pouring a 2-layer laminate. So today's demonstration is obviously going to be focused in the G6 mold. However, these concepts, right, everything we're doing today can also be done in a smaller mold, okay? You could do all of this, everything I'm going to show you today. You could do in a mold as small as the G4, or you could even do in a larger injection mold, right? So we have the 6-inch cutthroat here. Same thing applies. Everything that we're going to do today that I can squeeze into here, you could squeeze into here and then inject the bodies. All right, here we go. A quick capsule, all right? And think of your capsule as a canvas. What does every painter need before he or she can paint? They need a surface to paint on. So here we go. And then dump it out. All right, and there's our capsule, all right? And the capsule makes a better canvas because now you have this underbelly of plastic, which makes your materials stick to it, right? So now my foils, whenever I stamp them into place, they're going to stick to it, right? They're going to stay where I want. I can brush or splotch in any powder effects, and they're really going to look natural. They're going to stick to the capsule. If I tried to do that just on the aluminum surface, we would run into a lot of issues, okay? So as you can see, your capsules always have these rough edges. Let me show you what I do about that real quick. A good old-fashioned pair of scissors. I just run it along that edge. There we go. All right, now we have our capsule cleaned up, a nice edge, and we are moving on. Okay, so if we look at our example, right, we have some sort of black spots and black splotching in the head, right? So we captured that in our example. And the way that I did that was just some black mica powder, okay? So I'll show you real quick, all right? We just have sort of a really fine tipped little paintbrush here, and we're just gonna kind of dot it, all right? We're just gonna kind of put these little black dots in, okay? All right, we don't need to do a whole lot. It will stand out. And then sort of around the eye and the upper part of the head, we're just gonna shade in some black. All right, and the way that we fade and shade our powders is we kind of splotch them, right? Instead of brushing it where you're going to opaque your powder, if you want to blend your powder naturally, little splotches, okay? All right. Study what real artists do with their paint brushes. There's all sorts of techniques, okay? And so now we sort of have that pattern to our black. All right, there it is. There is step one completed. Okay, here comes the fun part, all right? So the foiling kind of needs to come from here down to the front, all right? So essentially, we're just going to stick it on, right? Isn't that cool? And just the natural shape of these foils, the way that they apply, kind of already gives you that organically sloppy look about it, right? Okay, so we can just kind of nudge our foils in the direction we want them to go. We can kind of scrape it with our thumbnail a little bit. All right. And then there's always a little bit up in the head, right? So we'll just kind of maybe scuff a little bit of it up in the head. Usually a piece or two goes up there. But the overwhelming pattern in the example is the kind of busted scales, right? Arched down that way. And then a little bit behind it, okay? So maybe, maybe like a piece back there in the tail. So that is sort of how we're applying our foil. And it's really fun because you can sort of scuff it, right, to break it up, or you can lay a larger piece on there a little more full, right? So for example, on this next one, we can put that piece on there, right? And now we have a little bit different look, right? Those are more solid pieces of foil. This one's a little more scuffed and broken up. All right, there's one more element of this that we need to capture. So if we look at our example, again, right, we have sort of the splotched up, you know, banged up, thrown up, regurgitated scaling, but there's also some white splotches in there, okay? All right, oops. Also some white splotches in there. How do we do that? Well, same way we did the black, all right? So, let's get you closer. Some light but random splotching of a plain white mica powder. That will give us some of those little random splotches of white, and this makes just such a cool effect. So we're just going to kind of sprinkle it in lightly all throughout the pattern to sort of provide just a little bit more detail. You can't really see it here, but trust me, it's there. All right, so that is almost all of it, right? And we haven't even used any color yet, nothing. We have not done anything with liquid plastic yet other than our capsules, which are dead on tube blend. And speaking to the foils, because I know I'll probably get some questions, you can just get these at your local hobby store or online. It's probably called silver leafing, but it's really just a very thin foil. Now, of course, you could use real gold or silver leafing, I guess, if you want to get really nasty. But we stick with the cheap stuff because, hey, after all, it is a fishing lure. But that is most of the color. Now it's just a simple task of pouring a 2-color laminate. That's it, folks. You know, there again, the pattern is very understated. And as you can see, it's mostly invisible. You don't even see the white pearl that we splotched in there, but you will once there are some backing colors behind that, right? So right now, all you see is just some black dots and some tin foil looking stuff. And that's sort of the beauty of the illusion of a pattern like this, is that it's sort of pulling a Houdini trick on you. You don't even see it until you have some colors in the mold to bring it out. All right, so as with any hand pouring, temperature is the key. So we are preheating our molds. You can see I have a target temperature here of 270 degrees. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let the molds get all the way up to it, all right? And 270 degrees as a setting will eventually get the tops of these molds hot enough to boil off spit, water, whatever, give it the Haktua, right? Spit on your molds, and if they boil water off, they are hot enough to pour. All right, everybody, so now we have to actually think about the color build, all right? And if we look at the belly of our example, you see sort of that kind of off-white, brown, creamy belly. You can see we were able to get that in our example. As is sort of this skinless, regurgitated, right, top color here on the skinless part of the shad, I guess you could call it. You can see how it's sort of brown and purple at the same time. Well, how did we get that? Dead On Plastics almost gives us the exact colors we need straight out of the bottle. Grit gives us that sort of off-white, creamy belly. And then Smashberry gives us that brown and sort of plum purple all at the same time in one bottle. All right, let's add some color for the first time today. Grit, baby, going in. And grit is very strong, very opaque. So we don't want to over grit our grits here. I'm such a dork. But I like, look at that. Is that not the perfect belly color? So yeah, as you can see, that is pretty much it. Matching that belly color in there. All right, here we go. Oh, we're ready. Gave it the Haktua. Let's pour a belly. Pour it up the tail a little bit. And then back down. Yeah. Beautiful. There it is. All right, let's smash some berries. Okay, and we don't want to add much. All right, and we're going to see where that gets us. All of my rules of color building still apply. Less is usually more. But this is one of the morph colors, right? That people sleep on and stop sleeping on. Smashberry. It is fan-fabulous. Is that a word? Fan-fabulous? So yeah, you can see we sort of have a brown to purple, and I'm using a very light saturation of it, so you're not going to see the morph as much, but I'm more focused today on getting the color right, and we actually need to dull it slightly. So we're going to add a little bit of brown, a few drops of brown, and maybe one drop of grit. That will take some of the blue and the purple out, alright, because we want it to look as much like the example color as we can. Yeah. That's getting close, y'all. Alright, let's get one topped off. Here we go. Nice and slow. And yeah, I know that's throwing a shadow on it. My bad, guys. Just fill it all the way to the top, nice and clean. Let that plastic kind of fill in any gaps that might be left by the capsule. Okay. Woohoo! There we go. One down, baby. So we're going to fill in the rest of these and meet y'all back after a bit. Molds are piping hot, so I think these are going to bond and pour very nicely. All right, here we go. Regurgitated shad G6. Whew. Drum roll, please. I have no idea how this is about to work out. Let's see if we can pop the mold loose. Kind of work it off without pulling the bait. Oh, this one might come out clean. Hold on. There it is. It was catching the tail a little bit. Oh yeah. Look at that. And of course it's going to be impossible to film. Isn't that cool? There it is. So yeah, a little darker on the top, so you're not seeing as much of the red in it come out. So all in all, the pattern is a little too dark, but that's okay. I have not made it in a long time. But that's it, right? So, you know, sort of the goal of today's video is to show you how you can use foiling in some of your more advanced layered techniques to get really cool patterns. It perfectly mimics the busted scale look, right? Which that regurgitated shad example was, you know, one of the best real world reference photos I ever saw of, you know, a shad with the busted scaling pattern. So that right there is how you can do it inlaid in a soft plastic example. Let's try another one here. I already broke the mold loose, so hopefully it'll come out nice and clean. Yeah, very good. Very good. Very cool. Isn't that a neat pattern? Alright, we have a really cool eye from Dead Meat Customs. I like how the pupil kind of looks downward, right? It's kind of looking down. There it is. Finished product, hand foiled, hand powdered, hand poured, regurgitated shad, color match there. And yeah, that is sort of how you can use all these techniques to combine them in one to make some seriously cool patterns. This, of course, is just one example. But, you know, we did a lot of different things there. The only thing we didn't do is any true skin pouring. So this one is sort of, you know, a capsule, and then everything else is just kind of touched in by hand or with a small paintbrush. So, yep, not everything is layered plastic. You can get some cool effects from some of these foreign materials like foils. And you can do that same sort of thing with your siren scales, right? Get some on your finger and punch them in, right, wherever you want to put them. So scales, mylar flakes, glitter film, foils, all of these techniques apply for all of those different materials. There we go. Isn't that cool? Is that not the perfect eyeball too? So there it is, guys. A fun but simple way. Yeah, there's a lot of steps, but a simple way to have a lot of fun using a lot of different techniques in one. And you know, they're all pretty simple. Just little paint brushes and powders and foils. You know, the hard part's just pouring a clean capsule and you know, doing a proper pour on the body plastic. So yeah, take that and have some fun with it. Alright guys, that's going to wrap this video up. Thanks for watching today. Sort of a really in-depth technical look at a very complicated pour, but they're all really simple concepts. You know, all hand applied. I guess the neighbors are home. Sorry about that, lots of noise. All hand applied stuff, really. You don't necessarily have to know how to skin pour or anything like that. These are all really simple things. Anytime you add foreign materials, you always get great effects. So yeah, definitely test out foils. You know, it's nothing new. We've done foils for many years, but I was asked to do a video on it, and I said, you know what? That'll give me a chance to do something really cool, regurgitated shad, show off the morph, show off the smashberry color, and sort of do some crazy patterns, right? It's been a long time since we've done a really in-depth hand pouring video on the channel. So hope you guys enjoyed. Take those ideas, run with them. I know that you can. Anyone can do it. That's what makes it so much fun, just this hobby in general. If I can do it, you can do it. Anyone can do it. So with that said, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss an upload or a live stream or anything like that. And we'll see you in the next video.